So what we have looked at now is that the effect of conversion of various kind of convertible securities, namely convertible preferred, second convertible debt, and third is basically the stock options using treasury stock method. So we have seen these, but the problem here is that we have seen all of these in isolation. What happens if they are all available as a complex structure in a company's capital profile? So what will we do if they are there at once? So how will we go about calculating the diluted EPS in this case? So what we'll in fact look at is a comprehensive formula which contains all these three at once. So the formula is not at all difficult. It's rather simple. The only thing that we do is that all of the incremental things that were added in the numerator and denominator, those all will be documented at once. So we'll write that net income minus the preferred dividends. This was our original formula. So let's start with the convertible preferred shares. What was added back? The convertible preferred dividend was added back. Now in case of convertible debt, what did we add back? We add back the interest with respect to the convertible debt, and we multiply this by 1 minus the tax rate. So this was the numerator. So if all three are present, this will be the effect of numerator. There's no effect on the numerator because of stock options. What about the denominator? The denominator will have the weighted average common shares plus, because of preferred dividends, there could be conversion because of preferred shares. So conversion because of preferred shares plus conversion because of debt, convertible debt. So I'll write this as conversion because of preferred debt. And last but not the least, the effect of stock options. So using treasury stock method, we calculate the net effect of stock options. So this will be our comprehensive formula for calculating the diluted EPS if all of them are present at once. Let us now look at a comprehensive exercise where we calculated diluted EPS for this case. So let's take this comprehensive example where there are all three kinds of convertible securities, convertible preference shares, we have convertible debt, and we also have options. And let's try to find out the basic and the diluted EPS for this case. So starting with the basic, the formula is net income minus the preferred dividends divided by the weighted average number of shares. So here in this case, we have net income as $250,000, and the preferred dividends actually come because of two different kinds of preferred shares. One, we have this one which is not convertible. The second one is the convertible preferred shares. So let's write that down. This would be 1,000, 5% and $100 par. So we have seen earlier that this answer is 1,000 multiplied by 5% multiplied by 100. This is the amount of dividend that is paid, so that is equal to 5,000. And what about 500 convertible preferred shares, 5% at $100 par value? Here what we notice that the dividend that needs to be paid is 500 preferred shares, $100 as a par value, and 5% of this overall value will be $2500. So the total dividend paid is basically 500 plus 2500, that is 7500, and this divided by the total number of weighted average shares which has been already calculated. This is 100,000. So this number comes out to be $242500 divided by 100,000. So your basic EPS essentially is $2.425. So this is your basic EPS. Let's now calculate the diluted EPS. So let us calculate the diluted EPS. So as the formula starts with net income less the preferred dividends, we'll write that down first, 250000, and the total dividends was 7500 as we saw in the basic EPS calculations. Now for each convertible security, we'll just look at an incremental impact of on the numerator. So let's add the incremental impact because of the 500 convertible shares. We've earlier seen that the dividend which was be paid would be 500 into 5% into 100. This is 2500. So we need to add this impact of 2500 in this case. What about this bond? 600, 1000, 8% bond. So here we need to calculate the interest. So this would come out to be 600 bonds into 1000 into 8%. So this is basically 48,000. So here this will be interest, that is 48,000 because of the convertible debt, and 1 minus the tax rate. So here in this question tax rate is not provided. So let's assume that the tax rate is 40%. So let's multiply this by 1 minus 40%. And what will happen in the denominator? In the denominator, we need to have this 100,000 as the common shares. That is number one. Then the incremental impact because of 500 convertible preferred shares. So we have seen that this would be 500 multiplied by 40 because each share gets converted into 40 shares. So this was because of the preferred shares. What about the bonds? 600 bonds convert themselves into 100 shares each. So this would be 600 into 100 each. Plus there are 1000 options at strike price of 50 and the market price is 100. So we have seen earlier that the net effect of this was an addition of 500 shares, and we had calculated this using treasury stock method. So I'll directly write 500 here in this case. So our numerator and the denominator comes out to be as follows. Your numerator is 273,800 and the denominator is 185,000. So this comes out to be $1.48 as the diluted EPS when we have all these three which are convertible dilutive securities. What was our basic EPS? Basic EPS was $2.425. So as we can see here, this is a clear case of dilution.